We couldn't. Yeah, well, which part of the land was Joel's? Do you remember?
Yeah, right across that hill over there.
Over here?
Yeah, down that hill. It started there from what we can gather, it started right down there in the hollow and went across that road there, and went up the hill. Now, I don't know if it was 60, 40, or 80 acres. I never did. I knew it one time, but I don't know now.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's where he raised his family. And then when Taylor Honeycutt was my grandfather's daddy, and that was Joel's son, and he built right out there where the trailer is out there.
Oh, really?
And he lived there, and he died when my grandfather was 10 years old. So that was Isaac. So he I was trying to think. Grandpa Honeycutt was born in '79, so he died in '89.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because he was 10 years old. Papa was next to the baby, and I don't know all of the. Hush, Nicey, don't you start now. I don't know all the kids' names because Ann's got it now.
Yeah.
And she called me. She was working on it, so he just kept begging me for it. And I said, "Well, I'm gonna send over and let you make copies." And so she started moving, and she's packed it up, and she said, she just got moved.
Yeah.
And so I don't have my book or anything. I ain't got nothing to memory now. I'm sorry. You picked
That's okay. We just
wanted.
wanted to meet you.
Yeah,
We appreciated all the information you gave me.
So y'all are from the Honeycutt line then.
Yeah, our Rance Honeycutt. We just know we're related to Joel.
Well, now, Rance, from what we can gather, Rance was Joel's either his father or his brother, and we hadn't figured that out. But Ann found it on the computer somewhere. That she found that name of Rance, and she didn't know where it was.
Well, now his daddy's name was John.
John.
My grandpa was born in 1870, wasn't it, or 71? And so he would have been about the same age as Taylor, you know. And so we didn't know whether he was a son of Joel. I mean, that he was, if his John, who was born in about 1850, 1840, he might have been a brother to Zachariah.
Probably was because a cousin to him, because Joel settled this land here in 1847 before Alabama was a state, and they didn't have a county then. It was called Cahaba Valley Trace through here, all the way from Centerville back this way.
Okay, now Alabama became a state in 1819. Reckon he settled it about then?
He settled in 1847.
Oh, okay. So he lived over on the river, you said, before then.
Yeah, they said he lived down, well, we tried to trace it. Across Cahaba River is about 5 miles down here. But from what we can gather, he settled a little further on down the river.
On the Cahaba or the Coosa?
Cahaba. Yeah, the Cahaba River is right down.
Right there.
Right below us. Well, if you go straight around this road and follow it, it's about 10 miles over. Now, you better straighten up and quit acting ugly. I've been gone, and she has been and she's going to start showing out.
Well, are you doing okay now?
I'm doing better. I have, well, I got a bad heart, and ain't never going to be much better. And as I tell them, some days I can do pretty good. Some days it's bad, but I have 6 stents in my heart, and then I have congestive heart failure, and then I went to the hospital in November, and they found that I have atrial fibrillation really bad. So
I was telling Bonnie that you were telling me that Joel was a short man, and
yeah, from what I gathered, that he was real short and small. But like I say, I can't remember now. Taylor, I think Taylor was Taylor Honeycutt was a fairly tall man. He wasn't real short, but he wasn't. But now Papa Honeycutt was 6'5" and weighed about 275 pounds. And he wasn't even fat with that. I mean, when he lost weight to 235, he looked like a ghost walking around.
Now, what was his name?
Ped.
Okay, we
That's
saw
all
that name.
Well, on the census, she gave his name as Petty, P-E-D-D-Y, Petty. Grandma Ma Goggins did. We call her Ma Goggins. She was Taylor's
So
wife.
he was
And she
Zachariah
went-
Taylor's son, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, tell, if you don't mind, tell the story about the money in the grave.
Oh, we still wonder where it's at. I don't know whatever happened, but Mama said that of course it's been handed down from family to family. But they always, the Papa and them used to go over and hunt for it, but they never could find it. Plowed around, but when he got on his sick bed to dying, and he got up, they said that night before he died the next day, and he got, of course they kept it in a box or a jar back then, and he went outside and, well, he always kept it buried, but, and made it like a little baby's grave. And so that night they said he got out away from them, they went to bed, and he got out and he moved it from there somewhere else, and they don't know it, but he dug it up that night. And
Wow.
now Grandpa Honeycutt was bad about putting his money. Now he put his money in the bank until because Papa was well off, pretty well off. Well, back then he lost $34,000 in the Depression when the bank closed in '29. In fact, I was born September 25th, and the bank closed in October 9th. And he had $34,000 in the bank. Because I've got records of it. We tried to collect it, but Papa couldn't write. He could print, but they got a signature, and I can't prove whose signature it is. But they took his money at the bank, and never gave him anything for it. They said he sold the shares to them, Well, he thought one time he got $150, and one time he got $300, and that's what he got out of that.
That's
so after
terrible.
that, hush. So after he got out of that, after they started having money again, because he used to have a little store right down there at his house, and they sold butter and milk. They had cows, and he farmed, and so they always had plenty of money. And my mother was so well off that she had everything anybody ever would ask for and more too. And then when the Depression came along, it was sad, and it broke my daddy's heart because he never could give her what she was used to then, Mother never complained about it. She never did complain, but I don't know how Ma Goggins, which was Taylor's wife, got the land, because that land next to her was my Mama's other grandmother lived out there where that little house is at.
What was her name?
Pardon?
What was her maiden name?
Papa's Taylor's Honeycutt's wife. She was a Hyde.
Mary Hyde?
Or
Martha.
Martha Hyde.
Martha Hyde.
Yeah.
And then my Mama's other grandmother lived next door where that little house is now. And it was, her name was Mary Frances.
Oh. Well, now, do you know who her daddy was? Who Martha Hyde's daddy was?
Oh, I got it on there, I'm sure. But they was her, and she had 12 brothers.
Woo!
Wow.
The reason I was wondering if she was some of the Bircheat family. Bircheat family.
I don't know, I've never heard that name.
Celia Bircheat married William Hyde. They had a whole bunch of kids.
Well, it might have been him, because now Clay Hyde, have you ever heard of him? Clay Hyde?
But I didn't know any of the Hydes. It's just that our family has some of the Bircheat in them too, so that's why I was just out of curiosity.
Well, when there's some Hydes here, there's Peters, and his thing, they raised them right around the curve up there, and they're my age, and older and younger, a few younger.
Well, are they buried up at Antioch? Well, I bet that's the same
there.
family then.
Probably. Because everybody buried you, that was a home,
Yeah.
And now they buried Grandma at, and I don't know why Papa took her out there, but they buried her at Macedonia. And then we buried Papa there. but that's the only one the Honeycutts I know about.
But what, I mean, the Hydes, so were they buried
yeah,
up
they're
at,
all, the Honeycutt graveyard is Hyde's.
yeah, and they're all kin?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be, that's something, and their land was right over there?
It's right around that curve there, right across from that graveyard,
Well.
right out in that field, and they raised their family out there, and that was Clay Hyde, that was Clay Hyde, and that was his Papa's first cousin. So their daddy, and Ma Goggins so if I say Ma Goggins, that's Taylor's wife. Because when like I say, Taylor died when Papa was 10 years old, and then she had an 8-year-old brother, and then she never would get married, and she could stay at home and farmed and took care of everything, and raised them 2 boys, and then she had a couple more, but once some of her children, she had some of this land across here, because she, after on that curve, she built had a little one-room schoolhouse built out on that curve.
Oh, so she taught school?
No, she didn't teach school, but she built a school out there
for
the
the other
kids
kids.
in this neighborhood. You know,
Oh, well, that was fun. So really the Hydes and the Honeycutts and all live right all in here together, right? And they're all buried up in Antioch? Well, that's interesting.
The Honeycutts is there under that, as you go up there right in front of the church, that big old tree out there. Well, that's the Honeycutts now. Just about all, a lot of the Honeycutts, the older ones, because Papa's daddy, Zachary, was the first one that's ever buried up there.
But Zachary was your grandfather. And do you know who his father was?
Now, Zachary was my grandfather's daddy. My grandfather was Ted.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay,
Ted. And Taylor was his daddy.
Okay, Zach. And then
Joel.
Joel. All right. Wow. So you remember quite a bit. Really, you got a lot.
We're so glad you're talking to us about it.
Yeah, we're very interested in the family history, and we're still trying to figure out how Joel is our ancestor, but we're pretty sure that he is.
Have you ever checked with anybody and got on the computer with anybody in Fayette?
Yeah, we're just about exhausted.
Well, now they're kin to these Honeycutts.
Yeah.
Because I got in touch when I was doing all this when I was young for Mother, and I found them. I don't know how I found at the courthouse, because we didn't have computers back then to hunt with.
That was much harder.
I went to courthouses hunting records, and so we called and got in touch with her, and we went down there one Sunday.
Do you remember who you talked to?
I've got it in my book. It seemed like one of them was George, but I don't know, I can't remember.
There is a George down there.
Yeah.
There was a George,
I think it was
and
George.
there was a Jefferson Davis.
Yeah. Now that was,
William.
Jefferson Davis was, Taylor's son. I know he was, I don't know about George, but I know Jefferson Taylor was, but I think he was. But I know Jefferson Davis
Was Taylor's son, Zachary Taylor's son.
Oh,
and he had a son named Arthur.
Did he?
Yeah.
Now there's some Honeycutts Hewittown, and I can't remember, his name was, I believe was Jeff Honeycutt, and he came down to Memorial Day one time when my brother was still alive, passed it 74, and I always thought my brother kind of favored Daddy a little bit, but by George, when when that boy walked up here with a Honeycutt, him and my brother looked like twins. In fact, my sister-in-law followed him halfway across the graveyard trying to get his attention because he thought he was her husband out there. But they looked like twins then, at the same age.
And
that's a Honeycutt. He was a Honeycutt then.
So that was your Ped and Jeff Davis. They're the ones who looked alike.
No, his son,
his
a
son.
relative.
It was,
Okay.
I guess Jeff Davis' son, more than likely, or grandson, that lived in Goodtown. But we never did, Trace never did do much checking. We done a little bit of checking, but I went to work, well, I never worked all the time, but most of my life I worked as a bookkeeper, and so when I'd be off from work, sometimes I had 3 children. Sometimes my children needed me, sometimes they didn't. But especially after Daddy died in '65, well, before he died, he was sick, and I had to help take care of him. And then I was living in Bessemer, and so just before he died, we moved down here. But I didn't want to, and my husband said, "You're going to help me. You're going to move down there and be happy because we got to take care of your mother and daddy. Because your daddy ain't gonna last long, and your mother needs somebody." So he bought this house on the hill. Me home, I don't want it. I don't want to move out of my house in Bessemer, you know. And but he there was some Honeycutts up there, and and there are a bunch of them that's Edward Honeycutt, and that was one of Papa Honeycutt's Ped's brothers. And there's a bunch of his kids that I know. Fred's one of them, and Melvin was one of them, and their families was raised in Calera.
Oh,
no, in Alabaster, right there on 31.
See, we know that our family come from Calera and Montevallo and this area. We know that for sure.
Yeah.
We were told that.
They were Alabaster. They were Alabaster. Well, they call it Pelham now, I think, but back then they lived right on that river over there.
Yeah, but from what we understand, this is the area that they lived in. Right here, Montevallo was where, and Cahaba, on the Cahaba River. So,
do you remember ever hearing the name Bolin, John Bolin?
Yeah, now my niece has got the river. She chased it down somewhere, but she thought maybe it was Joel's, either his daddy or his grandfather one.
Oh, you're okay. She's talking about the original.
There is that is a Bolin. But do you remember one that came after that was maybe whose age would he be like?
Zachariah.
About the same age.
Zachariah Taylor.
Yeah, that was my grandfather.
Yeah, a Bolin that was about the age of him.
Oh, well, it may have been Joel's son then. See, I don't know Joel's son because like I say, Ann got my book. She was here one time, and she kept calling me, and I've had a rough time for the last couple of years. But I've been in the hospital about 3 times. They said she ain't gonna make it. I'm still hanging in there, but she.
That's that Honeycutt blood. You're tough.
That's true.
And, so she kept calling, and she had gotten in touch with you, and then she got hold of somebody in Jasper. And I don't know who it was, Jasper.
Yeah, that was me.
Was that you? That's where you lived at?
Who is this? This is your daughter or your?
It's my niece.
Your niece. What's her name?
Joanne Beverly.
Yeah, we're on the group with her.
Oh, it's all getting clear to me.
And tell her to pull them out and let's get some of the records, you know, and you can answer. Because I traced them back. In fact, I traced on my mother's side of the family. We traced them back to England.
Oh, did
so far,
you?
I got no further than England, but I said, well, if I
now,
go
what was your mother's
time,
family's name?
that was on my mother's side.
What was her name? What was their name?
Ozell. Her name was Ozell.
I've seen that.
Mama's family would come from Pickett side. And there were a whole bunch of them out there here too. I had tons of Picketts, and they married.
Okay, now
we have Picketts in our family too.
Our family had Picketts that. Let me see. It was a David Pickett, John Pickett.
I know a Dave Pickett. He was the older man.
Yeah, and then his son was named John.
Was it?
And he married one of our.
When we moved down here, I remember something I don't know about. Just I guess Daddy and them knew, and Bill knew. But Dave Pickett, I knew a Dave Pickett.
Yeah, that was John's. John Ellis was his name, and he was from here and married our great grandpa's half sister.
Well, Ann said she found, because they keep telling us that there's some Indian in our family somewhere. And when the Honeycutts first come in, they came to Marion, Alabama, and settled. And that's where Anna got a lot of her records from, was from Perry
Marion?
County.
Marion?
That's in Perry County.
Perry
Oh,
County?
Perry, yeah.
And
Perry.
they lived there, and they just kept migrating up
Up
the
this
river
way?
because down there's a river too. You
Oh,
know,
yeah, so they just followed the river.
So they
up
followed
this
the
way.
river.
Hmm.
But I've always been told that the Honeycutt, that the reason they settled in Fayette, Alabama, that he lived here in this area, and for somehow he met this lady from young lady from Fayette, and he come back home. He'd been somewhere, and he met her, and he come back, and he sold everything he had. He wasn't married, but he sold his all his animals.
Now, which Honeycutt was that?
That's the one, whichever one that lives, George or whatever it is that lives at Jefferson Davis, it might be Jefferson Davis, and said that Papa said that it was his uncle, I think, and said that he swam all the way down the Warrior River to Fayette, and that's how they got started down there.
Oh my goodness, what a
He
story.
rode his horse to the other side of Bessemer. He had to ride to the other side of Bessemer. See, this road come through here. People used to come through here and go from Selma to Tuscaloosa through here. And on my map, where we bought this land, I live on Tuscaloosa Road. But they don't spell, they spell it Kulla, Tuscaloosa, like the Indians spelled it.
Yeah, the old-fashioned way.
Mhm,
That's the way it was spelled.
And that's what they call it, road out here. They don't call it that now, but that's what it is on my map.
Oh.
And when we first moved here, because the Indians didn't go around this road where it's, just in a curve, they come straight across out of Pea Ridge, and we figured they camped out over in this back field because, going.
Oh, you would see them?
No, this was years ago.
Oh, years ago.
But when we moved down here, my husband was cleaning, because this was woods back through here when we moved here, and so when they got over cleaning the field off, and we cleaned it off since we moved here, and since my little grandson's been born, I always loved arrows, and they have found that many arrows, Indian arrows over here.
Wow.
Some of them were big, some of them were little, some of them apparently were not really good, the material wasn't really good, and he's got a big collection.
Wow.
Oh, that's great.
Does anyone in the family know, like, where the Indian blood comes from? Like, did someone marry an Indian, or,
Well, I started telling you that, and we got up on something else. They said that either Joel or Joel's daddy, and I think it was Joel, was married to this woman, the Indian woman, when he come from South Carolina. It's whichever one that landed in South Carolina. And that he brought her sister with him. Well, when I checked Joel's record, he, when they did the census, he had two or three different names of, people living in his house and one of them was wife or something else, and then the next time they did the census, her name was Celia. And Celia, and so they said that he married the woman from up there in North Carolina, the Indian lady, and he brought the sister with him. She came with him, and they died. The sister died in over in Tennessee, and then he married the sister. So I don't know how many children he had by one and one he had by the other, but we had never got proven anything of that, because you can't hardly prove Indians.
Right, yeah, that's true. You can't. So we were just wondering, because we've always heard that there's Indian blood in the family.
Yeah,
but
we've always been told that.
Yeah.
But that's Ann checked it, and she said that they was somewhere she found something about it, and that's why she wanted my book to see what she's going along with, to see what was going on with it, But one of them, and I think it was Joel, from what she said what she could gather, that he went to he come from South Carolina into Tennessee, and one of Joel's brothers or uncles or something, when they started out from North Carolina, they didn't leave to go to North Carolina to come to Alabama. They left to go west, and he apparently made a left-hand turn. Because none of his family, and if you look on, I see on TV, a lot of Honeycutt's names out west of different people, you know. So I
No, that
guess
is
part of
true.
him made it out there, you know, but that's where he was headed, and Uncle Locke, Papa Ped's brother, when he was married to this woman, she had 8 children. They had 8 children, and he wanted to load up and go when they, way back yonder, and go out there when the gold rush came. And he was a lot older than Papa because he was the first one. And so he wanted to go,
Now, what was his name?
Wait a minute,
You just said Oat? You said something with an O.
Yeah, Uncle Locke was old. His name was Octavius.
Octavius. Okay.
Octavius.
And that was my grandfather's oldest brother. My mind went trailing trying to remember all that back. And anyway, that's the only problem I got right now with the stroke. It affected my speech. And it not bad, but it's just one of those TIAs they call them. And, but it affected me this time more than we did the others. But Uncle Locke don't want me to go out. Still, he had it in the blood for his family. He still wanted to go west. And so I was trying to think how old he was. He was born in 1865. I know when he was born. He was born just right behind the Civil War.
So that was Taylor's son.
Because Papa Honeycutt's mother was 13 years old when the war was going on, and the Yankees was camped out in Arlington and Birmingham, and they was making their way through here to go to Selma, and because coke ovens are down here at Selma, you know, and they was making their way through and they just looted everything and raped the women and done everything they wanted to do. So they were really vicious, they said, and so. Ma Douglas was raped when she was 13, and she had a child, and it was Uncle Locke. And then when she got old enough and married Taylor, they gave him the baby his name, just like an adoption. You know, back then they didn't adopt it; it was yours. You know, give it a name that was yours, But anyway, Uncle Locke was going out. We lived by him down here behind Antioch. It's when I was it was way before I was born. I guess long years before I was born, because they were all grown. When we lived in Bessemer, Mama they used to come visit Mama up there, and I knew, you know, I met a lot of them up in between Bessemer and Birmingham, there at West Birmingham, and so Aunt Fanny wouldn't go. Aunt Fanny is we call her, wouldn't go with him, and he got up in the middle of the night and took the little 6-year-old, and they left on horseback to go out west.
Oh my
And so he stayed gone for a long, long time. Finally, he come back, and he had a short little boy with him. And so Aunt Fanny always said that he took the child off to fight her because he was mad at her and give it away. But he said, and I guess it sounds true, that they got to the Mississippi River, and of course, you know, you had to figure out a way to get across the Mississippi River to go west, you know, because they didn't have freeways then. So he took a fever while they camped out on the side of the river, and he's buried down there on the riverbanks at the Mississippi River. So that sounds feasible, you know. But now Aunt Fanny, her name was Martha. And
you know, that makes sense, because Ruth Busby told the story of someone who died on the river and was buried on the side of the Mississippi River.
Well, that's who it was. It was Uncle Locke. It wasn't Aunt Fanny. It was his wife's first name was Martha Jane, and she lived in Birmingham when we lived in Bessemer. She never had married. She was still Mary Jane, of course, she's gone now because she's an old woman then. Because she had 8 kids, and she had 7 then. But she gathered her kids up. She was 11 o'clock come back home. Well, finally he married Aunt Fanny, and they had 4 children.
Well, did they get a divorce, or what did they
Back
do?
then, you didn't get a divorce. I mean, you just called it quits, and you got to for. Because this is way back yonder,
Yeah,
back
I
in-
understand. We
Yeah.
were just discussing that today. That's why.
It's just like Ma Goggins, Taylor's wife, when she never did get married again until her children when Uncle Zach, Papa's brother, and Papa was grown. Papa married first in 1901, and then Uncle Zach, his baby brother, got married in 1902, and they had a double wedding out here. The marriage preacher came through. He come through every so often on a horseback. If you want to get married, you waited for him, and then he married you, And so they were both in their late age by that time, because all their kids, all his kids was grown then. And so he got fooling around with a woman that lived over here on the hill here behind the house here. And she got pregnant, young girl, young lady. She said she was in her late teens, early 20s. And she had a baby. Well, her mother and daddy, back then it was just a no-no. It wasn't like, we'll take you all in and support you and the kids now, with welfare. They run her off. So she, Ma Goggins took her in to do the housework out there. Because Mr. Goggins said, yes, it was his baby, And so she took him in, took her in and let her do the housework, and her and Mr. Goggins farmed. Well, when the baby was born, it was a little boy. They named him Truman. So he's a Goggins. And so when he was born, they gave him enough money to go Birmingham, Bessemer, whichever was. I think Birmingham at that time was a very small place, but she went. She left and went out. Left here, around here, and so Ma Goggins raised the baby, and Pa Goggins then died when because they don't have families and neighbors and everything.
Right. Well, did the baby know about it?
I'm sure he did over the years. I don't know, because I never did meet him, but my mother knew him real well, and he was a lot younger, not much younger than my mother. She's born 1903, 1902, and I don't know. He was born in the late teens or early 20s, because Ma Goggins didn't die until just before I was born in 29, and she raised Truman. Just like it was Papa and Aunt Ellen and all them, And so, when Mr. Goggins died, the little boy was just 5 years old then. And she kept him there and raised him all them years. And he was a Goggins, And she raised him, and him and hers lived there. And when she died, some of one of Papa's sisters was fussing, because she was, Ma Goggins had said, she wanted Truman to have everything, because he was just a young man then. He was just in late teens, early 20s when she died. And he come out there. One of my aunts was on the other side of the family, lived right there by her, right there in that vacant lot. And she said that he come out there to the, Aunt Ellen come out there. She lived down the road here. Papa's sister lived down the road here. And he, her name was Ellen Walker. She married a Walker. Will Walker, that's who she married. And so she come out there and she called Papa her fence. Papa had fence. Everybody had fence around the yard then, because cows run loose. Animals run loose then. So she called into the gate, and Aunt Ellen talked loud, and so she said that Aunt Ada was sitting on the porch. She told Papa, Pet, Truman thinks he's going to get everything Mama's got out there, but she said, he ain't getting nothing, because he don't belong to family no way. And Papa said, Ellen, you better leave him alone, because Mama said she wanted to have everything, and if she said it, that's the way it's gonna be. And Laura, she had a fit. There's a couple of the girls had a fit over it, but the boys stood firm, and they gave him the land. So he moved from around here, and it was sold for its taxes finally. In the later, I think in the late 30s, when Latin time was so hard, he moved to Ohio. And when me and Mama checked on him, he died young. And when me and Mama checked on him, he had died about 2 years before that.
Oh,
We found him in Ohio. But just a little bit too late.
Well, we really enjoyed it, but I guess we're going to have to get on the road. But we just really have. Have you got any old pictures of the family, or?
Oh. No, I don't think I have.
No, don't you bother getting up. You don't. No, don't get up. You don't need to.
If I do, I'll tell some of the kids. I'll get your address.
Okay.
Put them on the thing. I can't remember anything I've got of them, but except further than back. Well, people didn't have pictures made back then.
Yeah, I know.
And I have.
So you got the George Honeycutt and Jefferson Davis, or J.D. They were both brothers of Taylor, right?
I'm sure. I think they were, from what we can gather. Now, there's one Honeycutt.
What about Jasper? Have you ever heard of Jasper Honeycutt?
I've heard it, but I don't know whose kid he was.
But you think he's some of the family?
I think so.
In Fayette, there's a Jasper, a George, and J.D.
Yeah, they all, that Honeycutt went down there and just, they all descended from him. And that's what they told me down there.
I bet he was down there visiting our ancestors that followed the railroad down there.
But, well, if it was a railroad, he probably did. But he, now, I've got a picture of Papa. I had pictures of Papa with his wife on their wedding day. But everybody else, they didn't make pictures back then. But they said that Taylor Honeycutt never had a picture made in his life.
Oh, really?
And the Pickett, Mama's grandfather, they said he never had a picture made in his lifetime. I don't know where people would come by with cameras every once in a while. Of course, there's a lot of people couldn't afford to have them made, even if they come by, because it was hard times then.
Yeah, I know.
Digging in the dirt for a living. And of course, back then, they didn't worry about keeping that land up. If you had to keep a house on it or some building on it to keep it, because it was given to him. And that's when they was giving land out, in this territory. And they gave it to him for, if he built a building on it. And
he homesteaded it.
And John Buchanan was president. He signed it. I've seen copies of it. One of the boys that lives up toward the river there, Cahaba River, toward Alabaster, above Alabaster. Now, one of them boys has got the sheepskin it wrote on. It wrote on sheepskin.
Oh, really? And that'd be great, wouldn't
it? But they ain't gonna let
and that's Joel.
Nobody see it. They would never let me and Mama say it. But
they wouldn't even let you see it.
No, they was crazy about it, and they're afraid somebody take it away from them, I guess. But the reason they got it, I think, was because their daddy, Papa's brother, Edward, was the oldest one, and one of some of his deeds.
Well, did you ever hear anything about Joel fighting in any Indian war or anything like that in Florida?
Yeah, now somebody told me that, but I don't know who told me that.